Well, fresh from the garden, I want to give a big welcome to AV. I know it's hard, right, with all of these Zoom meetings and Zoom invites and everything virtual. And I know, and we just want to get back to normal, right, AV?
Yeah, whatever that is, but yes.
I know, I know. So, okay, so let's get down into it. And you're in Edmonton. Um, Winnipeg here, we're kind of looking at a third lockdown. Everybody's, pretty much had it up to here with restrictions, but
Yeah.
the vaccine rollout is rolling out. How's it in Edmonton? Where are you guys at?
Well, I haven't checked the news today, but it's not good. I know
Yeah.
that already. And including that we can't even do outdoor performances, which is kind of what I was gearing up for, like even just doing one on my front porch because I did a whole bunch last year.
Yes. Yes.
And I was just talking to somebody on the phone about that this morning because, um, that was the one thing left that we could kind of do.
I
And even that's
know.
not possible right now. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everybody in Edmonton, but I think generally people are just like, oh my God, like I thought by now, I don't know. I think it's just fatigue with it all.
I know.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
pretty scary. It's
Yeah.
pretty scary. And we definitely need to keep hanging in there. And I don't
And
know, at least the weather is starting to be nice.
well,
That's one saving grace. Like
yeah.
having to visit all those people going on walks when it's -30 is not a really fun visit,
No.
you know?
No. No.
So I'm kind of like very hopefully forever done with having to visit people that way.
Yes. Well, and
Yeah.
you know what? Everybody's had their own moments of darkness, but then also moments of brightness. And you had spoken about doing home concerts, and that was a huge impetus for this great video. And I think that's what really caught my eye and the whole message behind it. Everybody matters. And then there's like a very compelling story that involves a personal story for you too.
Hmm.
So let's share that story.
Well, if the story, well, so of course, like many musicians, I was going to be touring a lot in 2020. And of course, then that wasn't happening. So I, um, in April, it had been a month or two since I had had a show at that point because all my March shows were canceled as well. Can we talk? And so then it was a nice day, and I thought I would just like have a house on a pretty busy foot traffic street in my neighborhood. And I went on the balcony and just set my keyboard up and played a couple songs. And I had messaged a few neighbors that I'd be doing that. And um, normally, I think if I would do that, it wouldn't be a big deal, but there was literally nothing else for anyone to do at that point.
Wow.
So I had an audience on the street of people in masks. And then, so then I thought it felt good. Like I just felt good to perform again and to
Hmm.
connect as weird as the connection was. Like seeing people in masks, what I wasn't used to yet, and all that. Anyway, long story short, I did the next week and the next week, and it kept growing. And then eventually I moved onto the balcony, from the balcony to the porch. And my friend Jojo, who sings backup harmonies with me, joined me because the porch is wide enough that we could be physically distanced from each other.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, we had a band, and then we had other bands too. Like we had a festival lineup kind of thing. And, a couple of times we had catering from the neighbors, and it
Oh,
sort of turned into a thing every Sunday that we did not miss a Sunday in 26 weeks and 6 months.
oh my
And the
goodness.
weather miraculously cooperated every Sunday. Like there was a couple of cold ones and a couple of iffy ones, but mostly we just lucked out every week that
That,
we had good
yeah,
weather.
yeah. And in the neighborhood too, the people there, I mean, it's inner city, correct? McCauley was the
Mhm.
area?
Yes.
Yes. And so, that's poverty, homelessness,
Yeah.
depression, a lot of mental health issues. Uh, what was kind of the reaction? Well, you've sort of mentioned it, but the reaction for the music and for this kind of community and gathering at a concert, and the joy I would think of seeing live music would bring.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I learned a lot this year about myself and about the neighborhood. the neighborhood had a lot to teach me, as it turned out. And actually, my whole album that I sort of gradually releasing, and this song is the first single of it, was inspired by the neighborhood even before the pandemic came out, because the album was supposed to come out a year ago already on tour.
Yes.
So,
Oh.
but yeah, I've lived here for 13 years, and as you mentioned, it's a neighborhood very notorious for its the opioid crisis has been really bad here, and there's a lot of homelessness and a lot of addiction issues and mental illness, like you said. Um, and just the stigmatization of people who have those issues. We all have different issues in life, but those particular ones seem to be very dismissed and or just thought of negative in a very sort of disrespectful way by a lot of people in our society. And that doesn't make it any easier for people, and they have to go through all sorts of other things based on the fact that their illness isn't really recognized in the same way as other ones. If you had cancer, if you had a broken leg or something, So
Right.
that's definitely been on my mind for so long. And then when this happened, the porch concerts, I hadn't really put any thought into anything more than I want to play. I'm a musician. That's what I do. I'm doing it. But because of it being located in the neighborhood that it is, two things happened. One is that people from outside of the neighborhood started to find out about them and come with their lawn chairs and their, their little picnics or whatever. And then other people in the neighborhood were coming that were just walking by, of all walks of life. The neighborhood is super diverse, and there's Buddhist monks and people pushing shopping carts and people of all ages and all religions and from all countries. And so, but the most interesting thing that I started to see is that the neighborhood, on people in my street, started taking pride in it, in that they were helping clean up the streets. There's a lot of garbage in my street always. They started mowing the lawns and putting social distancing markers up for me. I started doing it, but they started doing it, and they would change it up every week. Like one week it was Canada flags for Canada Day, whatever. And so that was a change, because it's hard to have pride in your neighborhood when you see so much sort of sad thing. So it ended up being sort of a thing where people were showing off the neighborhood, like all these people are coming from the whole city to here, instead of this being the place where people kind of get given to. Now we were giving to the rest of the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. As a place of people running away from it, they're now coming
Yeah.
to it.
And the other thing was that, then there were all these different people of diverse income levels and all the diversity of every way that you could describe it, all sort of sitting together in the same 2-meter apart section of boulevard grass. And it was sort of an equalizer, like we're all in this together. This is one pandemic. The pandemic is, And then thirdly, I think what was interesting is that so many people in this neighborhood have such huge health issues and issues of trauma every day, by having to find drugs that aren't legal and how to get the money for it, and just the life that you have to lead is so traumatizing that a pandemic on top of it all is kind of almost like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, there's a pandemic. Like, whereas the other people that were coming were like, oh my God, my perfectly planned out life has an element without control in it for the first time ever, for some people. And there is kind of like the pandemic for some people was like the biggest thing in their lives, like that had ever happened.
Yes.
That wasn't, I don't know, they'd never been in a war, or, like that kind of thing. So in a way, seeing a whole bunch of people who have a harder life kind of just, okay, and one more thing, I got to wear a mask. Okay. And it was sort of like, it was actually, it was, in a way, again, people sort of flipping this script and being taught, who was being taught and who was learning was often, I think, not what you would have, how it's traditionally seen in maybe a sort of colonial attitude.
Well,
So that was cool.
I mean, it's amazing how much one song can have over people. And just to point too, I think in the making of the video, you shot it at your house, right, and included
Yep.
people from the neighborhood, which is so beautiful. And I mean, a sense of pride all around. I guess moving forward now, AV, music-wise, I mean, you've always been a great storyteller. You've always been a voice for the, bringing people up, a voice for the voiceless, if you want to say, and you've always, addressed issues. What's been the biggest issue for you in the last year and a half?
Oh, you mean me personally?
Yeah, personally.
I think, honestly, it's really been bothering me, this whole sort of way that and the song is really the song is about, actually. It's been hard to rectify how our society, on the one hand, is very much about we got to be selfish and get ahead and get things for you and your money and your savings and you and selfies and me, and then on the other hand, supposedly be a culture that values equality and human rights. And of course, it's been the pandemic year, right? It's also the year of Black Lives Matter. It's so much racism, anti-Asian racism, anti-everything racism, and there's a lot of unresolved issues in the neighborhood of Indigenous rights, and that's all kind of swirling around this opioid crisis thing, which is kind of the symptom of it, in a sense, one of the symptoms of it. And so, yeah, I think for me, it's really been a time where I don't even know how we can possibly do this awkward dance anymore of like, oh yeah, I'm a good person, and not realize that the more affluence one person has, the less someone else has at some stage. And I don't think middle class people are so much to blame as just the whole structure of having certain people have made literally billions of dollars in this year, where others are not able to feed their families, and children starving and refugees being created, So I think it's that. I think it's just that I don't know how much longer we can live that sort of hypocritical, absolutely not, it cannot coexist, but we have told ourselves that it can for so long, and I think we're at a point where we're just going to have to say, no, it doesn't.
Wow.
It doesn't.
Well, I think that's your next song.
Maybe
to prove it,
yes,
to prove it, and to open
yeah,
our
and
eyes.
I also of course realize that then you have to find out, like, you can't just tear something down. You have to have an alternative thing to give hope instead, because hope is another thing I learned about this year, like how much we need that. Yes. And so if you have to stay home for 3 more weeks, you need to have a reward at the end. You need to have a carrot, like, okay, but then in 3 weeks you can have this or that, and so you have to give people something instead. And so that's really, I think, we've got to find leaders and systems that make it, and I think they're out there. Yes. So I didn't want to just leave on doom and gloom, but
well, yeah. I will do the dangling carrot part of this interview, because coming right up, you will see Everybody Matters from AV, a beautiful video, including stars from McCauley in Edmonton. And thank you so much for, showing us, or shedding the light so the rest of us can see and, hopefully understand. That's what your concerts did, like you said. It brought people from all walks of life to enjoy music. And I think hopefully, looks like not this summer, but hopefully next summer, you'll come here, you'll perform at the Winnipeg Folk Fest, and
that would be awesome.
And we will have live music.
Like I've always we were talking before I went to that festival a long time ago, kind of hitched my wagon to a performer that was performing, and it was so fun. It's such a great festival.
Well, hang on to those memories, AV. I know that they'll all come to fruition very soon. So I want to thank you. And everybody, here is Everybody Matters.
I will lift you up. I will trust your wounds. We're here at the legislative grounds in Edmonton where mere months ago people gathered to talk about equality and rights, and the message was loud and clear.
Creed or race? Never! For to me, you are a human being, and
It was a beautiful, unifying moment that the colonial entities so graciously allowed everyone to have. For Channel 96 CHIT News, I'm Frank Lee.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from Treaty 6 Land, sometimes known as McCauley, Edmonton. Everybody matters.
Everybody matters, no matter who you are. Some die of starvation, some get life support. Hey, everybody matters, just some a little more. 58 die here, 10,000 where it's full. Some make the headlines, others just the final door. Hey, everybody matters, just some a little more. So you want to see things for all ways it won't work here. Don't like slavery, guess I'll call that over there. Yeah, everybody matters, just some a little more, just to be clear. So you gotta get ahead. You can feel it to your core. See it everywhere you look now. At the banks and the billboards, till you can barely make it. Some a little more. So you wanna be righteous. Some a little more. Follow the good Lord. Some a little more. Got peaceful. Some a little more. Achieved by the soul. Some a little more. Oh yeah, everybody matters. Some a little more. Just some a little more. Oh yeah, everybody matters. Just some a little more. Oh, everybody matters. In the eyes of the Lord. Oh, everybody matters. Just some a little, some a little, some a little. Everybody matters. Oh, some a little more. Everybody matters. Oh, some a little more. Everybody matters. Oh, in the eyes of the Lord. Everybody matters. Just some a little more.